Ladies and gentlemen, we have the new college football playoff rankings that were revealed last night. Week number 13, or is this? Yeah, I guess it's the week 13 rankings. We're entering week number 14. But yeah, we're going to take a look at this and then see how the playoff is setting up. Also, look at the bracket. So you do have Ohio State still at number one. I was thinking if Ohio State loses to Michigan, where would they be ranked? Some people think they still might get a bye. I think they might be below Georgia. I guess it'll be dependent on what happens in the SEC championship, but because, Ohio State's analytics, even if they lose to Michigan, are still going to be very good. It's really no great wins. You could argue maybe the Texas win is good, but that's where the problem is going to be for Ohio State, possibly still trying to get that bye. If they lose to Michigan, they're not going to make the conference championship. And so they'll just be an 11-1 team with like probably the best or the second best analytics, but where would they be ranked? Probably fifth or sixth, I would say. You have Indiana sitting at 11-0. They're going to be 12-0. They face Purdue. They're 28-point favorites. You've got Texas A&M sitting at 11-0. They face Texas. It's basically a pick'em game. It's on the road. We'll have to see in terms of that. If Texas A&M loses to Texas, where does that put them in terms of still possibly making the SEC championship? Because that would be their first conference loss. And at this point, Texas with two conference losses would not be in front of them. But then they'd have one loss. They'd be 11-1. What if they lose in the SEC championship? Would they miss out on that first round bye? Because their analytics are not the best. You've got Georgia at 10-1. They face Georgia Tech. Neutral site game. They're going to be favorites, possibly moving to 11-1. They could be an 11-1 team that doesn't make their conference championship. Does this turn into an argument of an 11-1 Georgia versus a 12-1 Texas Tech to get that elusive number 5 seed? If Texas Tech wins the Big 12 championship, you want to be the 5 seed. You face the 12. You're facing a group of 5 team, whether it's North Texas, Tulane, whoever. You want that 5 seed because Georgia, if they don't make, you could argue maybe Georgia slides into the number 4 spot if Alabama makes the SEC championship and then loses, but then do you really want to punish Bama for losing the SEC championship? I don't know. Maybe Bama would still stay in the top 4, but then they'd have 3 losses. It's hard to really argue that. So you have Texas Tech right now at number 5. Texas Tech, very likely, I would say, to go 12-1. They are the best team in the Big 12. I do think it sets up something kind of strange when it comes to the overall seeding. You could be looking at the number 4 seed having a better path than the number 1 seed. We saw that happen last year. Some of this comes down to the fact that, well, Texas Tech, they're a Big 12 team. Based on the numbers, based on the dominance, they are probably seeded properly, but it's a conference that's obviously a lot worse than the Big 12, than the Big 10, at least in terms of the top teams and the SEC. You've got Oregon at number 6. Oregon sitting at 10-1. They finish 11-1. They're going to be hosting a playoff game. I don't know where they're going to be ranked. Probably 7th if I had to guess. But facing Washington on the road. Washington, they're a decent team, so that'd be a good win for Oregon. You've got Ole Miss at number 7. Obviously, the situation with Lane Kiffin, it'd be interesting if they lost to Mississippi State, what would happen, because then they'd be 10-2. If Lane Kiffin leaves, do you leave Ole Miss out? It's unprecedented. And, well, I guess Brian Kelly did something similar with leaving Notre Dame before the playoff. But yeah, nobody's seen something like this. Lane Kiffin said he's going to announce what he's going to do after the Egg Bowl. What a complete debacle that entire situation is. It's a head coach of a team that's going to make the playoff, and he could be leaving. And they're about 7.5-point favorites against feisty Mississippi State team on the road. We'll have to see. Maybe they'll galvanize together, but it's just weird. You've got Oklahoma at number 8. So Oklahoma at this point, personally, do I think they're one of the 12 best teams? Probably not. But because of their resume, because of their wins, they got the win on the road at Alabama. It was a very fluky game. It was like the only game script that they could win, and they got it. So they're number 8 right now. I think if they face Notre Dame would be clear favorites over them. Notre Dame is a very polarizing team. They lost to Miami. Miami has the head-to-head over them. They both have the same record. Notre Dame really does not have a great win. Their best win would be against USC. But they've been extremely dominant. They've got crazy good analytics. They had a 1-point loss to Texas A&M in a game in which they very easily could have won. They had the loss to Miami week 1, CJ Carr starting his first game. They lost by 3. Jeremiah Love really didn't get the ball much. You can understand why people are mad at Notre Dame being this high because the wins are not there, and they did lose head-to-head to Miami. But the problem for Miami, it's just the ACC and conference losses like to Louisville and to SMU. And those are just very bad losses. You've got Miami at number 10. It says University of Miami. It's kind of strange, but Miami at number 10. So yeah, Miami just has the resume to where if they go 10-2, I mean they beat Auburn, they're going to make the SEC championship because they still only have one loss in conference. They have the head-to-head over Georgia. So, but then I wonder what's the tiebreaker with Ole Miss. I guess they win the tiebreaker. Well, Georgia has the tiebreaker over Ole Miss, but then they'd all have one loss in conference. But I think Alabama will go. The question for Bama is, all right, they go 10-2, then they lose. Where are they ranked? If they're 10-3, they lose to A&M in the SEC championship. Where would they put them? How much do you punish Bama? Would they be on the road in round 1 at 10-3? Because technically they're really 10-2. Yeah, I mean I guess they'd probably be on the road, but it'll be interesting in terms of just that relationship between Ole Miss, Oklahoma, and Alabama. You kind of have to put Oklahoma in front of Bama because the head-to-head happened recently. There is a big difference in terms of context when you're talking about a head-to-head. A head-to-head in week 1 is a lot different and a lot less meaningful than a head-to-head in week 7, week 8, week 9, or whenever Oklahoma faced Alabama, like week 11. So that the head-to-head happening more recently is going to have more weight than a head-to-head happening in week 1, which was the Miami Notre Dame game. You've got BYU at number 11. This is setting up for BYU to win against UCF. They're big favorites. They're going to be 11-1, then lose to Texas Tech, and they're going to miss the playoff at 11-2, and there's going to be a lot of angry Big 12 fans. But that's very likely what's going to happen. You have Miami right now at number 12. So because of the way the format is, and honestly, I didn't even know this. I'm not going to lie, until recently. But if you win your conference championship, even as a Power 4 team, you're not guaranteed to make the playoff. So if SMU wins, there's this thing to where SMU might not make it. The ACC may get no teams in. Now, obviously, if SMU ends up winning, they're going to have quality wins. You win your conference championship, that's going to have a heavy weight on it. Maybe they end up making it. But there's the weird quirk to where, I mean, right now, obviously, Miami sitting at number 12, they wouldn't make it because the number 12 spot does have to be occupied by a group of 5. Well, I guess it doesn't have to, but because the group of 5 is, bad this year, they're gonna be the 12 seed by auto, by default. So, Miami is sitting in a spot to where you go on the road, you beat Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is ranked again. You beat Pittsburgh by a decent margin. We might start talking about Miami and them I think they're the most talented team in the ACC. They've got the 2 conference losses. So what do you do with that? What do you do with the ACC in general? It's very hard. We're going to have to see how it shakes out, but maybe there's an argument for Miami at 10-2 to be the number 11 seed. Maybe. I don't really see it, though. I mean, they would have to have very dominant analytics. I don't think they do. Utah, they're not going to make it. They're going to finish 10-2, probably beat Kansas. When you allow 400 rushing yards, they were never going to make it anyways. They have 2 in-conference losses. They're not going to make their conference championship, but Vanderbilt sitting at 9-2. So Vanderbilt, they just don't have, and this is pretty shocking to people, they don't have the quality wins in SEC play. They just don't in terms of how it aligned. The 2 big teams they could have beaten, they lost to. They lost to Alabama. They lost to Texas. Diego Pavia, I think he's getting a lot of Heisman hype because the Heisman this year is pretty weak. And I don't, Vanderbilt goes 10-2. I mean, that's a big win over Tennessee. There's just not a spot for them. There's not a spot for Vanderbilt at this point. Even at 10-2, I know people will be shocked by that. Unless you want to say, well, there's no ACC team that makes it and maybe put Vanderbilt in as the 11 seed. Then they'd have to jump Miami. I don't see them jumping Miami. Miami beats Pittsburgh on the road. That's equivalent to Vanderbilt beating Tennessee on the road almost. And Miami's already ranked ahead of Vanderbilt. I don't really see a way for Vanderbilt to make it at 10-2. They don't have the resume. Even, they beat Tennessee. That's a quality win. If that's a hypothetical, they're 3-point underdogs. I think they're going to lose to Tennessee. They're going to be 9-3. They're going to be out. Michigan is sitting at 9-2. So here it is. Michigan, they beat Ohio State. They're 10-2. Do they get the 11 seed? Who are they knocking out exactly? This is the issue in terms of these lower teams. And I know that Michigan, I mean, you look at their schedule, where's the quality win? I mean, Washington, the quality win is not there. Now, everyone says, well, if they beat Ohio State, it's the best win of the year. Sure. But who are they knocking out exactly? Because people keep saying this because they say, well, the game is so important and Michigan needs to be in if they win. I mean, are they knocking out? Now, listen, maybe Alabama loses to Auburn and it opens up a spot. If Alabama loses to Auburn, that's going to open up a spot. If Oklahoma loses to LSU, that's going to open up a spot. If Ole Miss, I think Michigan would probably be in above Ole Miss if Ole Miss loses to Mississippi State. But if all these teams win, that's where it becomes an issue for Michigan. Now, they might say, we're not taking any ACC team, and Michigan goes in as the 11th seed. If they beat Ohio State, of course. Texas at number 16, it's just not going to happen this year with 3 losses. I mean, people were arguing it. The problem is Oklahoma beat Alabama, which is now taking up a spot. And there's a few other things, and it's not going to happen for Texas. If they beat A&M, it's a very good 9-3 team. They're probably going to be ranked like 13 or 14, maybe even above that. But because a group of 5 gets an auto bid, they're going to jump Texas in terms of the actual bracket. Like, even if Texas finishes ranked 12th, they're not going to make the playoff because the group of 5 team is going to jump them. You've got USC, they're done. Virginia at 9-2. I don't know. Maybe they'll make the ACC championship, and they have a chance. Tennessee is done, and then all these other teams. You've got Georgia Tech sitting at 9-2, but the game against Georgia. You have Pittsburgh entering the top 25. You've got Tulane. You've got Arizona. Who's the number one? So is Tulane the top group of 5 team right now? We will go ahead and look at the bracket. So taking a look at this, so they do have Tulane. You see, this is the issue. You could make a very good argument out of the top 4 teams, the 4 teams that have buys in this scenario. The number 4 seed is the best seed to be because you're probably facing Texas Tech. Maybe there's a crazy upset. You're facing Tulane. But if I'm Ohio State, I really don't want to face Notre Dame in my first game matchup. I'm not interested in facing Notre Dame. The number 3 analytical team, I'm not interested in that. You've got Ole Miss and Bama. That's an SEC matchup. Both those teams are kind of, I don't think either one are that amazing, but I think I'd rather face I'd rather face Texas Tech than either one of those teams, honestly. And then you've got Miami and Oregon. I'd want to stay away from Oregon. Miami, they're the 11 right now, but that's, I believe, just that's a temporary thing because, I don't know, maybe Miami ends up making it, but people are obsessed with putting Miami in, I guess because, I don't really see a way Miami can make it. But either way, you do have this. This is the playoff chances. Ohio State, Indiana, A&M, Georgia, all with a 99% chance or above. Texas Tech at 93. Oregon, Notre Dame. Look at all these teams. This is 10 teams with a 70% chance and above. And then you have SMU because they project SMU, I guess, to win the ACC. SMU possibly being the 11 seed in this. This might be the top 11. Well, then they've got North Texas. They have North Texas over Tulane. So how does that work? North Texas faces Temple. Yeah, North Texas has a really good offense. And I know it's the American, but they actually do have a very good offense. What is Tulane looking at versus Charlotte? So, yeah, we'll see who ends up winning the American. So, to me, this could be the top 12 teams. It's these 11 going all the way down to SMU. I think this is 11 teams right here. And then either North Texas or Tulane. Like, that could be the 12 teams. In terms of any of these other teams, like, they've got Miami at a 20% chance. Okay, they've got a puncher's chance. Vanderbilt at a 10% chance. Michigan at an 8% chance. They think Michigan's going to lose to Ohio State. It's understandable. Then it comes down to, like, a resume. And the strength of record should change pretty drastically after this next week, just because I know how the metric works. And there's a lot of volatility to the metric. So right now, you'd be comparing like Michigan, who's 14. You'd be looking at game control Michigan at 15. FPI Michigan sitting at 18. You'd be comparing that to like a Notre Dame. See, the thing is, strength, I wonder... See, if Michigan beats Ohio State, their strength of record is going to be above Notre Dame. Notre Dame can beat Stanford, that's fine. But that's where it might become an issue for Notre Dame. And I think Notre Dame has to make it. But strength of record is the golden metric in terms of end of season determining the playoff. Michigan sitting at 14, but if they beat Ohio State, their strength of record is going to go maybe into the top 8. So it is hard to leave Michigan out in that scenario because they would probably have the strength of record, I would say. Like, look at Notre Dame, FPI, they're number 3. The game control is kind of a it's heavily based off your schedule. Like, look at the strength of schedule. Ohio State's sitting at 52 in strength of schedule. What is Michigan in strength of schedule? 37. Indiana's at 38. Ohio State's strength of schedule is going to improve because the game on the road at Michigan, and Indiana's is going to get worse because their game against Purdue. A&M is sitting at 23 in strength of schedule. Oklahoma is sitting at 5. See, that's one of the reasons it's impossible to leave Oklahoma out because of the head-to-head over Alabama happening so recently, and strength of schedule is number 5. Game control, they're number 7. Even if we think Oklahoma pound for pound maybe is not one of the 12 best teams, you just can't leave them out based off of that. Texas Tech, 56 strength of schedule, and it's going to get probably worse based off of their opponent this week. So, I mean, we'll have to see. Again, this could be very simple to where these top 11 teams end up making it. I mean, we'll have to see with SMU. SMU sitting at 8-3, 6-1 in conference. I think they hold the tiebreakers over these teams. So who did they? They didn't even face at either of those two teams. They didn't face Virginia or Pittsburgh, but maybe they hold some type of tiebreaker over them. At Cal, they may lose to California. SMU. I don't know. And then Pittsburgh against Miami. I think Pittsburgh obviously is probably going to lose to they're underdogs against Miami, so they're going to go to 6-2. Virginia, they could lose to Virginia Tech. They're 10-point favorites, but does that put Miami possibly back in the running? Like Miami in terms of their head-to-head Louisville. Now Louisville has 4 losses now. SMU, so see, they're not going to be able to pass SMU. That's the problem for Miami. SMU has the head-to-head over Miami. Even if SMU loses, maybe it's an SMU versus Miami. I mean, it comes down to like overall some type of tiebreakers with Virginia. Like if Virginia finishes with 2 losses, Pittsburgh finishes with 2 losses, Miami finishes with 2 losses, I think SMU goes for sure, even if they have 2 losses. Georgia Tech has 2 losses to Pittsburgh. Yeah, this is just a mess. I don't even know how to analyze this. There's too many tiebreakers involved. But the thing is with Georgia Tech, they're probably going to lose to Georgia. This should be a home game for Georgia Tech. They moved it to neutral site. I don't know why they would do that, but they screwed their chances of winning, that's for sure. So that's just basically the situation, guys. We'll have to see how this all plays out. Make sure you like the video down below. Also follow me on X. Link to that's always in the description.